Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time for the show we look forward to each week, where we highlight some of Orange County's fastest growing companies. Sponsored by EOS Worldwide, and the man who knows a little bit about growth, Will Christ. Welcome, sir.
Well, welcome. We are having a great conversation today with Mike Kelly, the managing partner of CONEX US. So welcome, Mike.
Well, thanks for having me.
Good. So Mike, tell us a little bit about you and CONEX US.
So CONEX US is a firm we started, weirdly enough, about 3 weeks before the pandemic. And it's grown from that to, in 4 years, to roughly about $65 million in revenue business. We have 270 consulting professionals in the accounting, finance, IT, and HR area, mostly all over Southern California, but probably about 30 or 40 consultants spread throughout the United States. Over half of our client base is focused on private equity groups and their portfolio companies. We do most of our work, though, is all around the office of the CFO. So that's, backfilling roles, doing executive search, implementing ERP systems, you name it, anything in the office of the CFO, tax work. We fill the roles and also backfill positions and work on special projects and gaps within their teams.
That's wonderful. So tell me, what is unique about CONEX US?
It's what I think separates us from everyone else. What's our secret sauce is that, it was founded by Big Four CPAs who, before getting into the finance and accounting staffing area, spent a lot of time as practitioners. So I think it adds to our credibility in front of clients, our credibility in front of talent, really understanding what a client's looking for from not only a personality perspective, but also an industry perspective and a skill set perspective, and being able to go out in the marketplace and really get the attention of those top guys and girls, because they're buried deep in the belly of companies. They're hard to find, and they don't take a lot of people's calls. So you have to kind of have a reputation of working with kind of the best companies and working with the best talent, and that doesn't happen overnight. That's I've been doing this for roughly 30 years now, so it's been a journey.
So combining CPA services with search for talent, that's kind of unique, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot of quote-unquote headhunters out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the barriers to entry are very low, and the cost to start the business also is very low. And all you need is a laptop and a phone, and you can call yourself a headhunter. The consulting staffing side is a lot more expensive to get started, and there's a lot more moving parts once you get people up and running. There's all types of insurance, payroll, and also you have to have a bigger workforce to execute on it. Because when a client calls us on an interim basis, it's usually something like, hey, we decided that we're going to move forward on this acquisition, and we need you to parachute a team in on Monday. And they're calling me on Friday to help out with the due diligence process. Hey, Mike, the auditors just came in, and they told us that we're not ready for the audit. We need your help to come in and get us ready. My director of SEC reporting just left me, and we have our queue coming out. I need you to parachute one of your guys or girls coming in, not only with the SEC reporting experience, who can hit the ground running, but also has relevant, let's say it's a SaaS-based company, has revenue recognition experience, and also has used NetSuite and all these different things. So the list is very specific, and these people are really hard to find. If you take a look, May 1st, unemployment for finance and accounting folks was 1.2%. So if you think about that, there's not a lot of people who aren't working in the finance and accounting world, especially let alone finding really good people, right? Because there's a lot of people that maybe, as we say, aren't fee worthy to a client, don't have a very specific skill set. They hit the ground running very quickly. And you have to have not only the EQ and the IQ mix, which is not always an accountant's forte, be able to parachute into a company, read the situation, prioritize very quickly, get along with people under a stressful situation. And not only can they do that, they want to do that, right? Because as I say, my clients never call us when things are going great. So it's grown, and it's an area that is growing. And one of the reasons why folks like us have been growing, because if you take a look what's going on in the accounting and finance area in particular, everyone's going to tell you that, it's blockchain, and then now it's AI is going to put us out of business. And it's definitely impacted our profession. But from a macro perspective, you have a lot of things going on. This is kind of some crazy stats for you. 75% of the CPAs that are currently working will be retired within 10 years. And there's no one behind them, right? So you have this huge gap and huge shortage. Also, there's so much work that is being automated down at the clerical level. We've heard about that, AP automation, but there's still a guy or girl that needs to sit and interpret the data, work with the different business partners, proactively think about how things are going and digest things. And as of yet, no one's been able to figure that out from a robot perspective. So the future for what we do, I think, is extremely bright. There's not a lot of people going into the finance and accounting profession as far as degrees. So I think there's a huge shortage. There's been a shortage for the last 10 years of people graduating with that degree, let alone going on to get their CPA certificate, which for me creates opportunity.
So now what what I understand from this, from what you've been telling me, is that one of the advantages that you have is that you have a deep community amongst finance and accounting people. A headhunter wouldn't necessarily have. They might have a list, but you have community.
Yeah, I think the reason why that is when I left Ernst & Young and went to go interview for some controller jobs, I decided, I'm too much of a people person. And I started out at a firm called Robert Half, and really kind of just absolutely fell in love with this business. My whole family's Big Four CPAs. I didn't know you can make money in this thing called recruiting and had no idea what it was about. But this sounds goofy. I love accounting and I love accountants. I think it's a beautiful science. Its impact is dramatic. And I think by spending so many years not just placing folks, but really getting into what they're doing, how they're doing it, what makes them great, being inspired by the people that I place and the companies I work with, I think people realize that we really care what we do. And, I brag about the guys and girls I place at companies, and they go in as a controller and they finish as a CFO, and maybe they take a company public and they're wildly successful. I can't tell you, my kids are so tired of hearing me over the last 20 years going, oh, I placed a CFO at that company. Oh, I helped that company go public, or things of that nature. But to me, it's inspiring, and I feel like I had a part in their success.
Well, isn't that what creates a great company, is when the leaders are paying attention to the employees, not as employees, but as human beings with desires, hopes, dreams, and spending time just listening. And how many times have employees really had the experience of somebody listening to them about what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go, what they might love doing? And if hearing you talk about that inspires me to think that in a field like numbers in finance and accounting, that there can be a real human community.
I think there is, and I think also really spending time understanding what people want to do with their lives. Sometimes people come to us and their companies got acquired and they're asking for advice. What am I going to do next, Mike? I'm out of a job. I always say, what do you want to do next?
Right.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
Because there's so many opportunities for people in the finance and accounting world right now. You really can do so many really impactful things. And then also taking time to follow up with them. How are they doing? Okay, where do you want to go? Can I make an introduction for you? Let's take a look at your resume. Let me give you some advice. You want X, but realistically, you may not be ready for that role yet. You're not ready to be a CFO. Here's some things that you need to do before you become a public company CFO. Let me help you get there. Let me help you check those boxes along the way. So it's a lot of fun. It's a really dynamic role, you deal with human capital, right? Mm-hmm. And the demand has just consistently gone up and the supply has gone down. So it's created a lot of opportunity for us in CONEX US.
Have you ever had the experience of someone asking, hoping, wishing to do something? Have you had the experience of saying to them, let me share with you what that entails? Because you may not like it when you get there.
I spent a lot of time with that. So I'll tell you a couple different stories. So first of all, I spend a lot of time with guys and girls. I get referred all the time, guys and girls in college, and they're deciding whether they want to go into the accounting profession, and they're halfway through it and it's gotten hard. Accounting is not an easy profession, especially if you're going through college. And so they're going, do I really want to get my CPA, Mike? Because this is getting really hard. What are the benefits? Why should I do this? I could go do finance, which is easier, and I make the same amount of money coming out. What are the pros and cons and things of that nature? So I spend a lot of time talking about the pros and cons. I'm very honest about, the grit you have to get through the profession to get your certificate, the long hours. But I also think it's an amazing, beautiful way you look at business, you look at the world. And if you have the grit and the passion to get through it, it provides an amazing opportunity for you to do a lot of things the rest of your life. Same thing when I talk to certain candidates that maybe what they're looking for compensation-wise or company size-wise isn't in alignment with their background.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be very honest with them saying, listen, your background is X and you're looking for Y. I can definitely reach out and try and make something happen for you, but realistically, it's going to take you a lot longer to look than you thought. And if you're okay waiting, that's great. Some guys will say, I had one guy in beautiful CPA background. He says, Mike, I want to be close to my kids. I don't want to leave Huntington Beach. I want to work for a medical device company in Huntington Beach, and I don't, because that's where I live. And took me 9 months to find the right thing for him, and it worked out. But he really was going to hold to it, and he was willing to make those sacrifices for it. So, my job is really to spend a lot of time telling you, with your background, kind of under promise and over deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And then how can I help you get there, either directly or indirectly? And spend some time saying, no, you want to work for this company. They don't hire people with your background, but here's a company that would love your skill set. Oh, I didn't even think about that company.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only that, but knowing the marketplace, knowing 90% of the companies in Orange County, over 50 billion in revenue, either directly or indirectly, myself or my team know what that company is about, because we've been in Orange County since '98,
Mm-hmm.
as far as doing this job, and you hear so many stories. A good person in my profession, obviously, we're quasi-private detectives,
Mm-hmm.
because we spend a lot of time listening and hearing about companies, hearing about good leaders and bad leaders, hearing about why companies weren't successful. And over a period of time, you get a very weathered eye, and especially on the community. And it's a small community. Orange County, is 3.5 million people, things of that nature. So you get the chance to work directly and indirectly with the same group of people, because the average CFO lasts maybe 18 months to 3 years tops. So they go from one company to the next, and if you do good work for them, they take you along with them, and vice versa. If you place them and they do great work, you want to get them out to that next company, and when their company gets bought or sold or things of that nature. And that happens a lot in Orange County. Everybody wants to live here, but if you take a look at how many public companies are in Orange County, 80% of the public companies in Orange County in the last 7 years are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They've been bought, they've been sold, they've been moved. So it's a really dynamic marketplace with a lot of moving parts.
Which always leaves room for the next one.
Yes.
I mean, we so often hear from pundits, oh, look at all these companies that are leaving. Well, first of all, I don't notice the freeways less congested, and I don't see any houses. I don't see a lot of houses empty. And for me, somebody moving out is sort of like graduating and leaving home, because the next one is going to come in and fill that space immediately.
I totally agree. It changes a little bit. So we're seeing a lot less public companies here, but we're seeing an enormous amount of private equity groups.
Mm-hmm.
The medical device area is fascinating. These are really sophisticated people. So what happens is a guy or a girl starts a company, does really well, sells it, or it goes public, and then they're ready for the next adventure, and they're not going to leave here. They love Orange County. Obviously, It's a beautiful place to raise a family. And so what they do is they start their next company.
That's right. It's sort of like what I tell people about retirement. They'll say, I'm looking forward to retirement, or I'm getting ready to retire. And I'll have to tell them, I said, look, in my experience, there's no such thing as retirement. Now, let's get clear. You probably know this. Retirement was a myth created by the Ford Motor Company, GM, and 2 or 3 other forward-thinking individuals who were at the top of companies, and they said, I wonder how we're going to get these people to work for 25 to 30 years doing this onerous job of turning the same bolt over and over again. And somebody, probably a CFO, came up with the idea, well, if we could say to them, if you will do this job for 25 to 30 years, knowing it's going to be difficult, we'll give you money at the end, and you can do anything you want to do. It's called retirement. The reality, to my knowledge, was that they only created those pension funds to keep people on support for 3 years, which is when they died. Now, of course, now we've lived longer, and that's why pension funds are not working so well.
Defunct, yeah.
Yeah. But I tell people that that's the myth. The reality is when you retire, you really only have two choices. And one is, what's my next project, or death? Because people just don't last a long time doing nothing. And it sounds to me that's not unlike what you're talking about when one of the entrepreneurs in Orange County sells, goes public, moves on. They go back and exercise their entrepreneurial skills and motivations and desires with the next project.
I would agree with that and even double down. If you take a look at, 80% of our consultants stay with us. They go from one project to the next. And so many of our consultants are really seasoned, and I don't say seasoned, that doesn't mean old, it means really experienced, technical guys and girls who also have amazing industry experience, a lot of specialization because they know a lot more than just accounting, who also have been through enormous change, recessions, taking companies public, bought, sold, and they have this wealth of experience that they want to keep working, but they may mean that they don't want to sign up with a company for a long time. They love project-oriented work, so they'll come to work with us, and we'll keep them busy 9 months out of the year, and then in between that, they're going to go goof off and have a good time, but when they work really hard, and their impact is huge because they're coming in to fix a problem. They don't want to go in and punch a clock. They want to fix a problem that a business owner has, and it's usually very surgical in nature, right? They're trying to fix a very specific problem, and folks love that. And so that's created a huge opportunity for guys and girls who usually they're in their 50s and their kids are gone, and they have that flexibility to work 9 months, and they're not chasing a pension plan or the next thing, and they don't want to work 120 hours a week. So it's created a huge opportunity for us because we really tap into these guys and girls with kind of just-in-time opportunities for them.
Would you say that they are doing what they love doing?
Absolutely.
That is so critical, and it seems to me that that's something we really want to communicate with anybody who is starting an entrepreneurial business, who's in the midst of it, is that the productivity of the people you're working with will go up immeasurably when you're helping people to discover what they love doing and either making a place for them in your organization or helping them to find a place in another organization, which will free up your space to find somebody who really loves doing that.
And is really good at it.
Well, absolutely. They have to get, and I don't get finance, so I would not be a good candidate. But finding somebody who gets what it is, absolutely wants to do it because they love doing it, and then has the capacity to accomplish the goals that are in that structure. I mean, that to me is what we should be looking for when we're in the midst of a company, is finding people who get it, who love doing it, and who are capable of producing the results.
Well, a perfect example of that is last week, I got a call from a client who said, Mike, I need some help. We're growing like crazy. We're a food manufacturer, and we're setting up a maquiladora down in Mexico, and I need someone with a very seasoned background to help us set up the maquiladora, implement NetSuite and ERP, and also can build out our entire costing process from scratch. Oh yeah, by the way, can they speak Spanish too? And we had that person to him within 72 hours.
Yeah.
Because this person, she's awesome. She was out of Nestle. She set up a maquiladora twice down in Mexico. She was a natural Spanish speaker, and she's absolutely phenomenal. Now, she used to do 15 things at Nestle, but what she realizes, what she really loves is building cost accounting. She loves the maquiladora. She loves Mexico, and she does it really well, and she can help people do this, but don't do that. We've made that mistake before. And of course, the client says, I need her for a month. It turns into 6 months, and he can't stop raving about her and keeps asking me to bring her back. But once again, it's having that surgical eye on where can we add tons of value. And these folks, I'll say, I used to do 10 things well, but these 4 things are the reason why I got out of bed in the morning.
Right.
And that's where we come in, is connecting that need and the passion, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That to me is such a critical message to get across, that it's not just what is my skill set. It's not just what is my experience. It really has to do with, what do I love doing? Where is my passion? Why am I bouncing out of bed in the morning? When we have that, all sorts of other things can come into play. We can train, teach, many things like that, but it's that passion that we want to get in touch with. Do you ever use any evaluations for people? Assessments?
We do. We have a couple different assessments we use, depending on the person and the client, because some clients like one assessment over the others, depending what they do. I find them really interesting. I think they are part of the process. Not some clients are end all be all about how someone might score on something. Sometimes I see some really qualified candidates get shut down because of some assessment, and then someone else maybe not be as qualified, but they did the assessment well. There's pros and cons to it, but I think it's a great tool to have in your tool set. The more assessments you can do from a technical background, also personality type, we just want everyone to be successful. So anything you can do to vet people out before, because it's not only important for the client, it's also important for the candidate. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a match. I mean, you're a yenta, right? And in EOS, we often use the Colby assessment.
Okay.
Because I mean, I'm not a fact finder. I am not a follow through, but I'm a quick start. I dive into the deep end and learn how to swim on the way down. But when I found the assistant who was an initiating fact finder and also an initiating follow through, my world was put together. And that is just so essential, to have that kind of support. And if she had been a fellow quick starter, we wouldn't have gotten any place.
No, it's so amazing. So this is my 5th company I've started, and I've had a lot of partners over the years. And at the beginning, you want to be all things to all people as an entrepreneur, and you're arrogant and naive enough to think you can be. And then if you're lucky enough, you get the business off the ground, and then you realize very quickly you need to delegate for a couple of reasons. One is because it's the only way you can grow and scale. And second of all, you realize you're not as good as you think you are at everything. And I've had, one partner in particular, Colleen Freeman, was my work wife for 25 years, and she's amazing, and she's so good at things that I'm horrible at. And together, she's my yin to my yang, and we've been wildly successful with 3 companies that we started together, because I come up with crazy ideas. I'm the one that does the blueprint and the idea, and she's the one that says, this is a little bit crazy, tweak that there, and then kind of brings me back to ground and slows me down and makes me do it over again to kind of pressure treat it, and it's been wildly successful. And, so I definitely agree. And they make you better, and they make you softer, and they make you more thoughtful.
At EOS, we call the person like you, we call them a visionary. It's not a visionary, it's the visionary, because we have a very clear picture of what that visionary is. They've seen a problem, they want to solve it, they have 20 new ideas every time they come to another meeting. They might, when they get caught in what we're going to call the integrator's seat, they come in and say, 90 days from now, we're going to do that over there. And 90 days later, when the team is just beginning to get geared up to do what they said they would do, that visionary says, no, hold it, go in a different direction. But that's the role of the visionary, and I'm guessing that the woman you're talking about is what we would call the integrator, who says, I'm in charge of making this happen. The team around us, I'm going to make sure that they work together harmoniously to accomplish the vision that we all created together. And visionary, bring in your ideas, but to me first. And let's go to work on them, because those 20 ideas, maybe we can get these 2 done, kicked off in the next 90 days. But we'll hold the others onto our long-term issues list.
Yeah, you've probably sound like you've been sitting in many of my meetings where they're telling me to slow down,
Yeah.
and take a deep breath, and to your point, prioritize, right? Exactly, because I think we could do everything all at once, which is a little bit irrational at times. But I think a lot of good founders and visionaries, you got to be a little bit irrational. If you think about 4 out of 100 companies that entrepreneurs start are successful, it's pretty crazy.
Visionaries they're the prophets. They're the crazy people. They're the ones who come in and say, what do you mean? Of course we can solve that. It's just an issue. Let's go. And EOS is often called therapy for visionaries, because finding that perfect connection with an integrator means that then not only will you see your vision become real, but you'll also wind up having time for your other passions in your family.
Very much.
One client of mine, he wound up being the CEO of the company because his father had to leave the company, and he was very good in the manufacturing part of it. And he came to me and he said, "Will, I watched my father for years run this company, and he did push us into a lot of growth. But every day, you see those 12 seats over there?" He said every day the same 12 people sat in those seats, and one at a time they would go in, and they'd have 15 to 30 minutes with him. And I don't know exactly what they did, but they wind up getting the issues solved. He solved them all for them, and then he would tell them what to do next. And he said that every day was what my dad did. And he said, he said, I'm now in my dad's chair. I don't know anything about accounting. I don't know anything about HR or sales or maintenance. And he said, I don't want to. I know about manufacturing. And can you help me? And that's where we created a leadership team of people who got it in that particular world. They wanted to do it, and they had done it before, and they could hit the goals that they all agreed that they would hit. What it freed this person up to do was to become super in R&D. And in this particular world of pumps, he created industry-changing pumps because he was freed up to do what he loved doing. And by the way, he was also freed up to take time in Europe with his family, visit his kids in TCU at university, all of that because he trusted people who were trustable and who loved doing what they were doing.
Yeah, it's very much, I think of, to kind of do your story, to drill into one, when I finished selling, I think it was my third company for the private equity. I had a couple of years of, you kind of had to hang out, couldn't go back in the industry. And I said, well, what do I want to do with my time? And I thought, I'm going to go off and goof off for a while. And after about 3 weeks, my wife and kids said, get out of here, you're driving us crazy. And I was. And so I said, what I want to do next? And I saw this huge opportunity at the time, which wasn't a huge opportunity, but I saw the opportunity about 12 years ago in the cloud accounting. So I started reading about it, and I just kind of went way down the rabbit hole. And I said, I think there's a huge opportunity in cloud accounting. It's obvious now, right? And there's this little firm called NetSuite that was doing some pretty cool stuff. And I geeked out with them for a while. And I wrote this business plan about how I was going to be able to bring CPAs into cloud accounting. And it turned out to be wildly successful. But for about 6 months, I was coming up with the idea and doing research. I would meet with Colleen, this person, in Laguna for breakfast and just kind of throw up all over the work I did the previous week and the people I interviewed and stuff like that. And to your point, it was great kind of She was that person to kind of press or treat the idea, tell me I was going down something that there was tons of opportunity. But then I also was that weird guy that would put a backpack on and flew around the country and got certified as a NetSuite implementer just because I was so incredibly curious on it. But to your point, it's so important as you go down this entrepreneurial journey to have someone, whether it's a spouse or a partner or something else, to kind of keep you grounded, keep you focused, and also someone to bounce ideas off, because that passion's a beautiful thing if it's channeled in the right area.
That's super. That's exactly the kind of things that we want to get out to the people who are listening. So let's take a break here and come back and get back into it and start talking about what the future is going to look like.
Sounds great.
So, EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, is a complete set of real-world tools that help entrepreneurs get what they want from their business. Not theory, it's not fluff, it's a proven system, strengthens the 6 key components of any business, including, what we're talking about here, vision, data, process, traction, issues, and people. Turning all that into one vision, one system, one team. If you want to explore the model and learn more, just start with the website, eosworldwide.com. That's eosworldwide.com. And now back to Will and his conversation.
All right, Mike. So now we got our feet on the ground. You've got, what'd you say? How many people are you working with now?
Between internal and external, a little over 300.
300. And you're working with lots of companies here in Orange County?
Yes. We cover probably 85% of our clients are from San Diego to Santa Barbara.
Okay. So where do you want to be 10 years from now?
I could probably shorten that down to 5 years.
Okay.
I'm a guy that is sprinting, so I can't think that far out. I think there's huge opportunity for what we're doing and where we're going. I do think we have a secret sauce and a focus. And I think you'll see CONEXes throughout the country, at all the major cities, because the problems that businesses are facing in Orange County is no different than LA, is no different than Denver or, Dallas, things of that nature. And I think there's a huge opportunity on a national basis for us to continue to grow, to do what we do. We're at 65 million in revenue this year. We want to be 100 million, within 18 months, both organically and inorganically. So we have pretty aggressive goals, and I think we have the team to execute on those goals.
Anything standing in the way?
Tariffs?
Tariffs. Well, tell me about tariffs.
Well, obviously, it's we, even in a down market in the last 2 years, we continue to grow. The great thing about finance and accounting is we're the plumbers of business. So you always need us in one form or another. But in 2022, 35% of our business was all around taking companies public and the mergers acquisition market. So for a company to go public, we help them basically do everything from internal audit work to Ks and Qs to get through an audit and to do the S1. And then on the M&A side, we do everything as far as getting a company ready to be bought, getting through an audit. And then once it is bought, how do you stand it up? Because it's ready for growth. So if you can think about this, from 2022 to 2023, 35% of the business disappeared within probably 60 or 90 days. As that SPAC market just absolutely imploded. Yet we still were able to grow. And I was really excited by how resilient our model was.
Adaptable?
Adaptable. Wasn't easy. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't.
No.
But we had to hunker down, be more thoughtful, shrink our strike zone, and find different places for the talent that we had to fix other problems businesses were facing. So if you think about it, all these companies, we help them go public. And once they're public, they need someone to do their Ks and their Qs, their compliance, their SEC reporting. All those companies that we helped get bought, now they were bought and they have a lot of debt, and they have debt compliance, and they have to get out all their financial statements on a timely basis, so that making sure they in compliance with their debt covenants, and they want to implement new ERP systems and things of that nature. So the business that we worked on wasn't nearly as quote unquote sexy as it was before, but I think it was equally relevant.
Well, let me ask you, as you were considering the adaptability, the route toward adaptation for this changed marketplace, What role did your leadership team play in plotting that path?
Great question. It connects us. I'm super fortunate. I have two incredibly solid partners to help with the business. They're both from an accounting background, and they both have been in the business for a long time. They've been in booms and busts, and they're so plugged into our clients' needs. We spend so much time with our clients out in the field with our consultants. How are things going? What are you working on? What other things do you hear from a client they have needs? That we all came together and probably spent about 45 days and said, okay, if this whole IPO market, this whole M&A market, let's just go through it disappears. Not how do we survive, but how do we thrive? Because we knew so many of our competitors in the business, that's all they did. Where for us, there was still 70% of things we were already doing that weren't going anywhere. So how do we double down more on that? And then when the market comes back, we'll be ready to execute again and grow. But how do we grab market share? Because so many of these guys and girls never really built relationships, never really built a sales engine. And they were basically, they only knew things in the kind of the roaring 20s, right? So, and didn't have the capital and foresight and fortitude to get through it. So, and it's been a bumpy 2 years. We continue to grow, but it's been harder. But it's still a good market. Entrepreneurs are still making things. Obviously, getting back to your point, these tariffs have been kind of, everyone saw it coming, but not like it's happened, right? And
Right.
my consumer products and manufacturing clients, which is probably food and beverage clients, it's probably about 45% of our revenue come from those clients. And to give you an example, just this morning I was on with a $600 million aftermarket automotive group that we do work with. Think about that. So they manufacture and they're aftermarket and they're in the automotive world. They do work in China. They manufacture in a little bit of India and Mexico. And they don't have any direct hire needs, right? Because they're definitely not hiring. But what they did say is as soon as we heard about any tariffs coming through, we stopped hiring in general. And we still have gaps in our team. So Mike, here's some very specific things you guys can help us out with on an interim or project basis. So we're not helping them go do M&A or a whole 9 yards, but we are helping them kind of shore up some of the shortcomings on their team from a technical perspective. So there's still opportunity, and it's cool that the clients bring you into this conversation and said, Mike, this is what's going on. I think you can help us, but I'm not sure how. And then we create a solution, a team that can help them out, because what they need is they need help from us on a quarterly basis. They don't need us full time right now, if that makes sense.
Let me ask you, would it be safe to say that what they need is they need a place that they trust where they can be open and honest with the problems that they see, and they can begin to articulate them in a way that they weren't before?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think over time we've earned that trust.
Yes.
Because people are very particular about who they share obviously their business information, let alone their financial information. So I think coming from that CPA background where we have a very strict code of ethics we were raised in, being discretionary about all of our clients and what we're doing, creates a brotherhood or sisterhood where people feel more comfortable that you understand kind of the right way to do business and the wrong way to do business. And doing so much work. Give you an idea, last year we did 486 consulting projects. We did 286 executive searches where we placed people. And over half of that was with private equity groups. 20% of it was with public companies. And so having that name, that heritage, and the years of this being relevant in the market, I think it really pays credence when things are going well and also when things are going bad.
EOS, one of the things we do is we help people build an accountability chart. It's different from an org chart. The org chart is really more about people and responsibility, and more about people and who they report to. Accountability chart, you start off with the structure. What is it that your business needs to have happen? And what are the 5 things that you expect from that seat or that box? And only then do we begin to put people into those who get it, want it, and have the ability to produce those results. Well, as we were moving into COVID, we were building out accountability charts. With COVID, then we had to help people with a reverse accountability chart. And we always, in building the accountability chart, we said, look out 18 months or more, Because that's what we're going to be looking for. If you don't have them right now, just put TBD. They had those, and so with the reverse accountability chart, it was exactly the opposite. Now take a look out 18 months. What will your accountability chart look like then? And now, how will you achieve that? So yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's like a stock market broker. They're going to make money on the way up or on the way down. But when you have that relationship with people, you're there for them whatever happens. And you are providing, number one, the place for them to scream, to laugh, to cry, because they can't do that anyplace else.
Absolutely. I think they understand the types of stuff that we see. We let them know it's okay. This happens all the time.
It's just an issue.
Exactly. And we can give you examples of where it's happened and how we fix it. It's not as bad as you think it is, or it's pretty bad, but we have a solution that we think we can help you with.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we're not the right people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Depending on what that issue is.
But we can introduce you to those people who are.
We don't do cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But the issue you have is a big issue. We know groups that are really good in this area, and we'll make the introduction for you.
Yeah, yeah. So, are there any other things that are in the way of you getting to where you want to go?
You know, we're very fortunate in the aspect that we sold 75% of the business to a large private equity group, and they saw a great opportunity, I think, in us as what they call a platform company, to basically grow nationally. They're Mid-Ocean Capital Partners. They're a wonderful private equity group. They have, $10 billion in assets, and they've been wildly successful in the human capital area. And so we're very fortunate to have the capital to execute. But at the same point, they're very thoughtful about how they deploy capital, and in what way. And so I think, we all want to make sure we time the market perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right or wrong. I've always been very contrarian. Like, I want to deploy everything like in this economy right now, because 6 months from now, cross my fingers, everything's going to be significantly better. And what happens is everyone jumps in and does things when things are really good.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing stuff when things are really bad, because first of all, it gives you time to get it right, and it gives you time to build it out, and you're ready for that hockey stick growth. I can tell you in 2009, I started was my second firm called Beacon Resources, and I thought I timed the market perfect. I was 6 months before things were going to get great, and for the first year it was miserable, and things didn't come back for over a year. But what happened during that first year? I had an enormous amount of spare time. It was me, my partner, and we rented like a $500 a month little office. All we did is go out and saw clients,
Mm-hmm.
and heard about the problems. And they'd say, "Oh, Mike, we don't have any needs, but we'll keep you in mind. We'll keep you in mind."
We don't have any needs yet.
Exactly. And it was pretty discouraging, I have to be honest with you, for a while. If you remember what was going on in 2009 and through first part of 2010, everyone thought for sure the sky was falling. But things turned around, and what we saw is that business took off like crazy. Mm-hmm. And CONEX US, we went from 0 to 40 million in 2 years. And by the way, we started 2 weeks before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, 6 months of the pandemic that we were all walking around our houses shaking our heads going, is the world coming to an end? Is it, but we still showed up every day when everyone else didn't.
And when you say, hopefully 6 months from now it's better, let's always remember that it could be 6 months from now it's even worse than now, but that creates even more opportunities.
Yes. I would say that actually gets me more excited.
Yes.
Because I have to be honest with you, when I see with what's going on with the tariffs, why in the short term I'm frustrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hate to see my clients go through this,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know my competitors are getting a lot weaker,
Mm-hmm.
and they're feeling sorry for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they aren't working nearly as hard, and they aren't taking care of their people. And this is creating opportunity for me as I go out and recruit out of other companies, because characters define when things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And people have had a really good run the last 10 years, right? And so I think this creates opportunity.
And there are competitors who are doing as good a job as you are, and those are people you can cooperate with to build the marketplace.
Not only do you cooperate with, I applaud them.
Yes.
I refer them work. There's certain things we don't do that they do. I have a competitor that also does place COOs and chief sales officers. I meet with this gentleman every 90 days for a cup of coffee, and I refer him work every other month because I like the way he does he works. And not only but I also know people that take shortcuts, aren't taking care of the people, whole 9 yards, and time will tell where they'll end up.
Right. Listen, this has been just wonderful. Is there anything that you would like to ask of our audience?
I think I would love to hear their perspective on how they feel things are going from a tariff perspective. How's their optimism? You know what I mean? I wake up every day and very optimistic about where we're going as a country, how resilient our economy is. If you take a look at the craziness that's happened in the last 120 days, unemployment's still extremely low. And I think the future is rather bright, even once we get through these hiccups. So it'll be interesting to hear their perspective. They're feeling as confident as I am in the long-term perspective of where we're headed.
How would you like them to communicate that with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me and give me your perspective. I'd love to hear your thoughts and any advice. And, it's always good to make connections with folks. You never know how you can help each other out, directly or indirectly.
Well, thank you very much for being with us. This has been a wonderful experience and conversation with you. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people who benefit from this, and I encourage them to communicate with you. If there's anything that we've said that resonates with our audience, they can always get in touch with me. They can get in touch with me at will.christ@EOS Worldwide, or text or call me at 949-355-6013. I'd be happy to have a conversation. And I look forward to the next time we get together.
Will, really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time as we take a look at Orange County's fastest growing companies. Sponsored by EOS Worldwide, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.